Hello everybody and welcome back to the Backlogs channel, and we are less than 1 day away from the Switch 2 launching, which is absolutely insane. Time has completely just flown by. I feel like I've just lost a total of a whole year, if not half a year, of time at this point. Also, we're already halfway through the year. We're already in the 6th month of the year. That is absolutely crazy. I feel like it was just January and it was just March when we were starting to hear these, like, really see and hear these leaks and stuff for the Switch 2. And now we're here, the day before the console comes out. Now, I said I was going to do a 1 day left video, which is this one. So here I am. I don't know how I'm finding time to even do this video right now. I am so insanely busy, but that's the beauty of the Backlogs channel. You really don't need all the time in the world to be able to film a Backlogs video. I do need a little time to film footage and stuff for it, like the gameplay footage and stuff, but all that aside, that is not what I'm here to talk about today. Today's a very momentous occasion. It is, as the time I'm saying this exact sentence, it is 1:42 p.m. on June 4th, 2025, which means we are about 10 hours away from the GameStop launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, which also means this will be the final video I ever record in the Switch 1 era, which is sad, but also kind of exciting. It's very weird to think of a console like the Switch 1 already being 8 years old, almost 9 years old at this point, because it really just, I feel like it just came out yesterday. Like 2017 felt like yesterday, and it's already 8 years away from that date. And honestly, if it was any other Nintendo console, then the new console would have already came out about a year ago or two. The Switch is very much that exception, so I don't know. It's just, I feel like the Switch doesn't feel old to me yet. But then when I really think about it, and I'm gonna feel that Switch 2 in my hands today for the first time. On video, actually, the first time I'm ever going to see or touch or anything with the Switch 2 will be on camera. So, look forward to that video coming either to the main channel or the Backlogs channel. I don't know yet. Probably the Backlogs channel, but just keep notifications on from both of them if you want to see that. I think once I see and feel that new console in my hands, I will then be like, okay, yes. The Switch 1 can go away, I get it, like, it's old now, old news, 8-year-old, you know what, it doesn't feel old to me as a console. It still feels new and sleek and fresh and thin and just nice, but when you think about the hardware it's running on, holy, it is old. It is running on basically Xbox 360 and PS3 graphics and just power. So this Switch 2 is going to be a very refreshing change of pace. We're at a point where Nintendo is able to, I think graphics and power in consoles and all that stuff has kind of hit a plateau for 20, maybe even 30 years there, from the beginning of video games actually. It had just been skyrocketing. So the Atari to the NES, huge change. That is a skyrocket in graphics. And then obviously the NES to the SNES, basically doubling graphics, going from 8 to 16-bit. And then going from 2D games to 3D games in the N64. And then going from super polygon-y shape items to straight up renders that are round and not pointy everywhere. And the GameCube. And then the Wii, which, I mean, that in its own respect was kind of the first time that graphics kind of hit a plateau. But for all the other consoles, it was going from the Xbox and the PS2 to the Xbox 360 and PS3, where there was a huge graphical leap. And from the Wii to the Wii U, that is your jump to HD, very big difference there. And from the HD console, the Wii U, to the Switch, which was powerful in its own way because it has, it's going from just a singular screen, the TV. I mean, yes, you can say the Wii U too, but the TV was what you played on. And now they have to fit, like, the Wii U gamepad is not what all the information was in. It's just the screen that it was relayed to. Now, the Switch 1 has all the information inside the console itself. So, with that being said, how graphics have now gotten better, and they also are portable. That is your jump in quality there. Now we've hit a point where we've hit those HD 4K, 8K graphics in video games. There's only so much you can see with the human eye, and we're pretty much at that point, if not a little behind, but like I said, we're kind of plateauing. We're not completely plateaued yet. We're plateauing. We're in the process of slowing down because there's not much further you can go with graphics. The next big leap is going to be GTA 6, and even that, if you take a look between Cyberpunk and GTA 6, the real big difference is just shadows being a little bit better and reflections being a little bit more realistic. Like, it all looks very good still. So we're at a point where these graphics are plateauing, which means Nintendo can finally catch up when it comes to quality of, their console specs and all that. They can finally give us 4K. They can finally give us 120 frames per second. They can finally give us 1080p display with 120 frames per second while in handheld mode. That is more powerful than practically every handheld console on the market, maybe beaten by one or two, but you gotta remember, the Switch 2 is $450. These other ones, these portable PCs, they are $800+. So, for the price point, Switch 2 is on top when it comes to graphics, and just being able to do something that just 10 years ago would have been rendered completely impossible on 3DS hardware and PS Vita hardware and all that stuff. So, it's gonna be sad. We're going from an era, when I started my YouTube channel, the Switch 1 was already out. It was out for maybe 2 years at that point. I've been doing YouTube for 5 or 6 years now. Since 2019. So that means that, the Switch 1 was already out for like 2 years at that point. I had already been playing Switch games for 2 years. This is the first time that a console's coming out besides the Series X and PS5, but those barely count. This is the I'm a Nintendo YouTuber. I talk about Nintendo stuff more than anything because that's what I care about the most. So this is going to be the first time for me that a new Nintendo console is going to come out at the same time as still making videos. And you guys are listening to the channel right now. I just rebranded the second channel to the Backlogs channel like half a year ago. Mainly because there was so much Switch 2 things I wanted to talk about, and I just didn't have time to do it on the main channel and script the videos and all that stuff. So I made this channel so I could just talk to you guys and talk out loud and give my opinion about things. So even if no one's watching, I can go back and just listen myself what I thought 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 6 months ago. Because time changes, and you change quickly with it. You don't realize. But the main point I'm really trying to say is, this is the last time I'll ever be talking about anything on either of my channels, any of the channels. This is the last piece of recording I'm gonna do before being into the next Nintendo generation. It's been a wild ride, it really has. From the leaks about a year ago. Even before that, the whole Nintendo Switch Pro situation, since like 2 years into the Switch 1, there had been rumors that there was going to be a 4K version of the Switch 1 that could play beefier games, which could have been true, could have not been true. It ended up not happening, but we did get a Switch OLED, and what I think happened was the Switch Pro ended up turning into the Nintendo Switch 2 system, hands of systems. So I was thinking about this earlier. Now that the Switch 2 is going to be the successor to the Switch 1, does that mean the Switch 2 is now in the air quotes Switch family of systems, kind of like how the 2DS was in the 3DS like family or umbrella of systems? Does the Switch 2 now fall under another Switch variant? Or is it its own thing? It just happens to look and, you know, play and have the same name as the Switch 1 for the most part? Where's that distinction? Where do I make that distinction? I personally think this is the beginning of a new era. I think the Switch 1 era was the Switch 1, the Switch Lite, and the Switch OLED. Now, we're going into a new generation where there's going to be a Switch 2, and then I think a few years down the line, we'll see what happens. I'll be talking about it on these channels and living it with you, but I think there will be a Switch Pro at some point, and then they're all obviously going to make another variation of the Switch 2, the Switch Lite, a little bit less powerful, only handheld, much cheaper, maybe $300 instead of $450. Bring it down to that Switch 1 price, and yeah, that's what I think is gonna happen. And yeah, I'm excited to go into the new generation with high hopes. I'm starting this time from the very beginning, and I'm going to be here every step of the way for every single thing that happens. I wasn't able to do that for the Switch 1, obviously. I was a kid at the time. Couldn't just have the liberty of just buying or doing what I wanted when I wanted. I now, as a adult, I can make those choices, and I can, you know, be there for launches of games and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Just on to a new chapter, I guess. See you in the next Backlogs video. Bye bye.